3, 2, 1, meow, meow, meow. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meow Meow Sports. I'm David, and this is my sports podcast, something like that. I'm not sure what this is going to turn into. I just want to have fun with it, alright? Today on Meow Meow Sports, we're going to be recapping the NFL Week 1. And as a quick disclaimer, I just want to say something really quickly. I am not the best at articulating myself, putting my opinion out there, explaining how I feel. So if things get a little messy, I apologize. And hopefully as I continue to do this, I only get better at trying to articulate myself, trying to put out what's on my mind to my mouth and trying to communicate it in a good way. So yeah. Just before we get into the NFL Week 1 recap, I just want to tell you something really quick. My best friend, my redeemer, my savior, my rock, my shield, Jesus Christ loves you so much. And Jesus Christ wants to have such an intimate relationship with you. He wants to show you the joys that are to be had in this world, the love that he has for you, and ultimately the reward, which is him in heaven, spending an eternity in heaven, worshiping him. So all I gotta say is, there's nothing you can do that will make Jesus love you any less. He loves you, I love you, and that's all I gotta say about that. God bless. Let's get into this. Alright, the first game we're gonna look at here is the Green Bay Packers defeating the Chicago Bears 10-3. Coming into this game, there was a lot of expectations for this Packers squad, alright? They got new head coach Matt LaFleur. They spent a ridiculous amount of their free agent salary on defensive stars. So, the expectations were high, to say the least. The Chicago Bears are also coming off their very disappointing playoff loss. I'm sure you've all seen it. The double doink. Cody Parkey, most likely the most hated man in Chicago. God bless that guy. I can't imagine what he's going through and, what he still goes through. For the duration of this whole game, you could tell that both defenses were playing their hearts off, especially Chicago. Alright, Chicago and Green Bay both racked up 10 sacks against one another. But it was the Green Bay Packers that ended up on top at the end of the night. With the help of Aaron Rodgers and the new look defense, they won. And although both offenses were looking pretty sloppy, I have plenty of hope for the Green Bay Packers, alright? I get it. This is a new system for Aaron Rodgers, who's been under Mike McCarthy for God knows how long. I have no worry about it. They'll work out the kinks. Rodgers did not play during the preseason. However, for the Bears offense, Mitch Trubisky didn't look too good. The running back carousel that they had going on during the night, it didn't look good. Going into preseason training camp, OTAs, I kept hearing about David Montgomery. He will be the breakout star in the Chicago's backfield. But what we got this night was totally disappointing. David Montgomery only rushed for 6 times, only accumulating 18 yards. That's averaging 3 yards a carry. This is not good. He did, however, have a monster reception of 27 yards, but still, it was a disappointing night for what Bears fans hoped to be a breakout game. And getting into Mitch Trubisky is it's a whole lot to unload, There's a lot of questions surrounding this guy, This year, they're expecting big things from him. And if he can't perform to the high level that they need him to win these types of games, I don't know if he's their future. They might have drafted the wrong guy here. You don't want to waste time with this Bears defense. This Bears defense is superb, all right? Man, they are delicious. They will eat your quarterback up. They don't have time to waste. Figure out that stuff soon, Chicago, all right? If not, it's going to be a long season for Mitch Trubisky and your defense. The Tennessee Titans dismantled the Cleveland Browns 43-13. Let me tell you, the Titans absolutely ignored and destroyed all hype that was with the Cleveland Browns this season. It's a long season, I know, but me personally, as a Steelers fan, and I don't mean to be biased here, but I believe that it will take time for this Cleveland squad to develop, alright? They still need time to brush up those nasty Cleveland vibes, alright? I feel like it's just not going to materialize just like that. They need time. Baker needs more experience, alright? Marcus Mariota, this is a pretty big season for him. This is a make it or break it season, and he performed quite admirably, all right? He had 3 touchdown passes, one huge pass to big boy Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is looking pretty fantastic, all right? He had 19 carries for 84 yards. That's about averaging 4.4 yards a carry. He also had 1 touchdown rushing and 1 touchdown receiving that went for 75 yards. All right. All I could see this offseason is don't draft Derrick Henry. Don't draft Derrick Henry. Gonna be a bust. Gonna be a bust. But man, did he prove those guys wrong. There were also a couple other offensive stars for the Titans. A.J. Brown had 3 receptions for 100 yards. Pretty impressive for the kid, all right? Delaney Walker as well had 2 receiving touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Again, not only for Marcus Mariota and Mike Vrabel, but as the Titans organization as a whole, this is a crucial year for them, all right? They've been 9-7 the past few years, all right? And it's not cutting it anymore, all right? With Andrew Luck out of the Colts, that kind of opens up the AFC South. Not saying that the Colts are completely out without Luck. I believe that Jacoby Brissett will do a serviceable job. But the goal for this team is the playoffs, all right? This is boom or bust. Potentially, if Marcus Mariota doesn't perform to standard, he may be off this offseason, you know? But with this performance, it's looking pretty good for the Titans. As for the Browns side of the ball, things aren't looking too good, all right? The Browns committed over 18 penalties for 182 yards. That is not a good look on new coach Freddie Kitchens, all right? You go in there and you need to be disciplined, and just having your players commit that many penalties is not a good look, all right? One of those penalties included left tackle Greg Robertson kicking a guy in the face, all right? That's no bueno. This performance definitely left Cleveland fans wondering if they've been duped, bamboozled, hoodwinked. It goes on, all right? The Browns are 1-19-1 in openers since 1999. That's pretty rough. All right, Baker Mayfield, he didn't look spectacular, I gotta say, all right? He had 1 touchdown for 3 interceptions, one of those interceptions being a pick 6, all right? Cleveland fans are expecting big things from Baker Mayfield, and I believe if just given time and development, he will provide all those promises. Again, I just believe it's going to take a little bit more time for the Cleveland Browns to brush off all this, all the nasty Cleveland vibes. I, for one, didn't buy into all the Cleveland hype this offseason. Until they could prove it to me, I was out of it, The AFC North is competitive, all right? The Pittsburgh Steelers will always put up a fight. Baltimore Ravens always will put up the fight. And the Bengals as well, they looked pretty mighty against the Seattle Seahawks this week as well, all right? Again, Browns fans, don't lose hope, but I just think it's going to take a little bit more time. The Baltimore Ravens murder the Miami Dolphins 59-10. My good Lord, what is Lamar Jackson on? Okay, Lamar Jackson, you get my wow of the week. But seriously, Lamar Jackson torched them within the first 9 minutes of the Dolphins season, all right? Fans were booing the Dolphins 9 minutes into the season. It's going to be a long season for you guys, all right? I'll tell you that. I seriously can't tell if Lamar Jackson has just improved this much or the Miami Dolphins are just this horrible. I, however, believe it's a bit of both. I mean, oh man, all types of records were being broken in this game. Ravens set their franchise record for most points in a half and most points in an NFL opener. It was crazy. All right, Lamar Jackson is looking like no joke, all right? He had 5 touchdowns this game. And let me just tell you this. Everyone's always teasing him, oh, you're a running back, you're a running back. This man only had 3 carries for 6 yards. Not bad for a quarterback, as he said in his post-game interview. Lamar Jackson, I salute you. I love watching you play. I'm a Steelers fan, but I'm going to love watching you play if this is what you continue to put on the field. With all those touchdowns being thrown to, where did they go? Well, Marquise Brown also put on a clinic, all right? He only had 4 receptions, but had 147 yards for 2 touchdowns. 2 bombs from Lamar Jackson in the first half, man. I was watching this game live, and I ran to my fantasy app to grab Marquise Brown, all right? This ain't a fantasy show, but I'm telling you now, pick him off the waivers. I have a fantastic feeling about this guy. Also, Mark Andrews, all right, the tight ends. I drafted him in a couple of my leagues. I listened to the fantasy footballers. They were telling, Mark Andrews, this might be the guy for Lamar Jackson. He had 108 yards for 1 touchdown. That's not bad for a tight end. That's tremendous for a tight end, actually, in such a horrible tight end landscape we live in. Lamar Jackson, he may not be a running back, but I will tell you who is a running back. Mark Ingram. He had 14 carries for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. Coming into the season, I didn't have high hopes from Mark Ingram. I didn't believe in him, I'm going to tell you what. But, man, he proved me wrong. He averaged 7.6 yards a carry. Again, I can't tell if the Baltimore Ravens are this good or the Miami Dolphins are just this bad. We will just have to wait and see, all right? Miami's next game, it's against the Patriots. I wish you the best of luck there. The Ravens' next game is against Arizona. Talking about Miami now, what is there to be hopeful for? What are the positives here? I can't see anything, all right? Ryan Fitzpatrick, he didn't look good. Josh Rosen, he looked even worse, all right? No stars in this game, no glimpses of hope in this game. It may be a long season, Miami. It's reported that players are seeking trades after this game to get the hell out of Miami. And I don't blame them. Hey, Dolphin fans, I only have one thing to say to you. Hashtag tank for Tua. The Minnesota Vikings defeat the Atlanta Falcons 28-12. Man, it's looking like that fluke of a season last season Falcons may just not be a fluke at all. It may be your reality for a little bit, all right? I know it's a bit early to say this, but it was not looking too good for you guys on the offensive side of the ball, right? Matt Ryan, he looked like a rookie out there. He resembled nothing like the MVP he was a couple seasons ago. Matt Ryan threw for 2 interceptions, 2 costly interceptions. The worst moment of the night definitely came where Matt Ryan tried to throw the ball outside of the end zone, but it ended up being intercepted. Hey, that's pretty rough. Now, if we're talking about the Vikings side of the ball, they're looking pretty good, all right? Before this game, Kirk Cousins said, the key to getting this game going is getting Dalvin Cook going, and boy, is that correct. Dalvin Cook absolutely dominated this game, shredding the defense, all right? He had 21 carries for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. This man is a stud muffin, all right? This Vikings offense is looking pretty good, all right? It's looking so good, in fact, that Kirk Cousins doesn't even need to throw for 100 yards. Kirk Cousins only went 8 of 10 and 98 yards with 1 touchdown, and they still won the game. That's pretty incredible, all right? It is clear that this offense is running through Dalvin Cook, all right? And with Dalvin Cook healthy, this Vikings team may surprise a lot of people. The Buffalo Bills come back from behind to defeat the New York Jets 17-16. I gotta be honest with you guys, I don't want to talk about this game. It was such a sloppy Joe of a game, my lord. For the first 3 quarters, this Buffalo offense was looking stinky. They had more turnovers than they had points. None of these struggles, however, mattered in the end for the Buffalo Bills, all right? Josh Allen activated his GOAT mode and came back from a 16-point deficit to win the game in New Jersey. Josh Allen and Sam Darnold both have quite a lot of weight on their shoulders this season, all right? Both teams are expecting pretty big things from these guys as quarterbacks to step up and be the men that they need to be. Josh Allen here threw for 254 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. It wasn't a great day for him, but he did sneak out the win, all right? Also on the Buffalo side of the ball, who did impress, but by God, I can't understand why they didn't give him more to work with, is Devin Singletary. All right? This man had 4 carries for 70 yards. I just don't understand why you wouldn't give him the ball more, all right? Again, he's averaging 17.5 yards a carry, and you give the ball 11 times to Frank Gore. Mind you, Frank Gore carried the ball 11 times for only 20 yards. That's averaging 1.8 yards a carry. What were you thinking, Sean McDermott? All right, if the message isn't clear, they need the ball in Devin Singletary's hands more, all right? I believe if Josh Allen is lacking a bit, Devin Singletary will be able to pick up the slack, all right? With Shady McCoy out of Buffalo, this could be Devin's team. This can be his backfield. The Bills just need to give him the ball more. My goodness. On the Jets side of the ball, Sam Darnold, he looked okay. He threw for only 175 yards with 1 touchdown. Not bad, but man, he didn't complete a lot of his passes. He wasn't looking sharp out there. Who did look sharp, though, after a year of not playing was Le'Veon Bell. He's looking like he didn't skip a beat, all right? He's not looking as good as he was in Pittsburgh, but mind you, their offensive line isn't as good as Pittsburgh. And Le'Veon Bell, again, hasn't played in a year, all right? I believe Le'Veon Bell is going to come back to form. He will be just as good as he was in Pittsburgh with the Jets. New York Jets, I gotta hand it to you. You really did choke this game. You get the choke of the week. The Philadelphia Eagles defeat the Washington Potatoes 32-27. This was Deshaun Jackson's homecoming, and boy, it did not disappoint, let me tell you, all right? We had 2 vintage Deshaun Jackson plays, taking it to the house on both occasions, all right? Deshaun Jackson, even though playing with a broken finger, looked pristine out there. With Case Keenum going for over 380 yards and 3 touchdowns, he helped the Redskins build a 17-0 lead in the first half of the game, but the Eagles came back from that. Although they had a sloppy start, the Eagles came back with a high-powered offense, including Deshaun Jackson. Although Deshaun Jackson's been out of Philly for over 6 years, it looks like he hasn't missed a beat since he's been away. Again, with Deshaun Jackson blowing past the Redskins secondary, he got a pair of 50-yard touchdowns. There's only one other man in the NFL, in the history of the NFL, who has more 50-yard touchdown plays than him, and that's Jerry Rice. His only 5 away. Maybe he might do it this season. Maybe he'll catch up. Who knows? Again, it was fantastic seeing Deshaun Jackson out there. It was vintage. It was scrumptious. I savored every moment of it. Going into this season, I didn't think the Philadelphia Eagles were going to be as good as everyone was making them out to be. That's clearly not correct. They were looking fantastic this game. Once they got past that sloppy start, I'm sure Eagles fans were scared there for a moment. Once they got past that sloppy start, it was looking pretty darn good for them. With Case Keenum looking serviceable this game and drafting Dwayne Haskins this season, I don't know what direction the Washington Redskins are heading into, to be honest. They just looked confused. Darius Geis, the running back, looks like he's re-aggravated something in his knee. It's not looking good for them. Philly, on the other hand, this may look like it could be another Super Bowl season. I'm not sure. If all the pieces come together, if their defense plays well, if their secondary steps up, because I believe that's their biggest hole on the Eagles team right now, is their secondary. If they can step up, if Carson Wentz can stay healthy, this may be another Super Bowl team to look out for. Los Angeles Rams beat the Carolina Panthers 30-27. All I gotta say is, for me personally, drafting Todd Gurley in a ton of my leagues, where was he for the first 3 quarters? Sean McVay in the beginning of the season told us that Todd Gurley was definitely not on a snap count, but let me tell you, he was on a snap count, all right? Malcolm Brown was splitting those carries with Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley did pick up some steam in the third and fourth quarter, but it was a little too late. They did get the win, but again, Todd Gurley isn't looking that great. This knee problem might be a serious thing. People were saying that it's gonna be fine, but judging from this game, it's looking a little rough. He did catch a 25-yard burst, but again, I don't know. There's something a little bit off by it. Another player who was coming off of injury and that had a disappointing performance was Cam Newton. Cam Newton looked pretty rusty out there. He's had a questionable shoulder for quite a while, and he was not looking good. Cam Newton had a brutal fumble in Carolina territory that led to a Rams touchdown. He also had an interception with about 5 minutes left in the game. He just didn't look good. He looked rusty. He even said he felt a little rusty and that, as cheesy as it sounds, he wasn't connected to the same Wi-Fi as his teammates. I wonder where I've heard that before. But, yeah, Cam Newton didn't complete a pass for over 17 yards. That's not good, The Carolina Panthers may have to start looking at Will Grier as their next man up. If Cam Newton continuing to play this sloppy, this rusty after how many months of rest, it's not looking too good for Cam Newton. Start looking into Will Grier. A player who didn't disappoint, though, was Run CMC Christian McCaffrey, right? Christian McCaffrey was the star of the Carolina Panthers, all right? I'm kind of getting some New York Giants vibes from this team, I'm not going to lie, with Cam Newton questionable and, Christian McCaffrey being their running back, being their man. I'm getting some New York Giants vibes here, But yeah, Christian McCaffrey racked up over 209 yards with 2 touchdowns with 29 touches. This man is a beast. He is the machine. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 40-26. With Patrick Mahomes' MVP season in the rearview mirror, he's got some stuff to prove this season, and it's looking like he's as good as he's ever been. But this isn't just him. Sammy Watkins had quite the game, I'm going to tell you this. He went off. With losing Tyreek Hill early in the game, they were going to need the next man to step up. And boy, Sammy Watkins did step up. Sammy Watkins had 9 receptions for 198 yards and 3 touchdowns. And although Tyreek Hill may miss a couple weeks, if I were Kansas City, I would not fret, all right? You have Chris Conley, you have Sammy Watkins, you have the rookie you drafted, Mecole Hardman, as insurance just in case this whole Tyreek Hill investigation thing went downhill. I wouldn't worry. I would worry, however, for Jacksonville, all right? Nick Foles went down with a broken clavicle in the first quarter and was sent to the IR. That is brutal. That essentially leaves rookie Gardner Minshew with a significant amount of time to play for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm going to be honest, if I were Jacksonville, I would worry and I wouldn't worry at the same time. Hear me out here. All right, Gardner Minshew, he did a serviceable job. He completed 22 for 25 passes. That's pretty good for 275 yards and 2 touchdowns with an interception. He was looking pretty good, all right. So, hear me out. If they ride Gardner Minshew, maybe if they get, who knows, they get in the hunt, and if Foles is able to come back in December, that's perfect because, as we all know, Nick Foles plays his best football in December and January, all right? Again, realistically, it's pretty disappointing for Jacksonville, but I believe there's hope in Gardner Minshew. And on the plus side, Gardner Minshew does have a pretty dope mustache. The Los Angeles Chargers beat the Indianapolis Colts in overtime 30-24. With Melvin Gordon holding out, Austin Eckler looked solid. Eckler had 154 yards for 3 touchdowns, including the game-winning 7-yard runs with 5 minutes remaining in overtime. I'm going to be honest, with Melvin Gordon holding out, I believe he thinks he's a lot more valuable to this offense than he actually is in reality. Between Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson, I think they're going to be just fine. And obviously, in this game, Austin Eckler has proven to be the solid backup that the Chargers need, the next man up. I believe that this is going to be a losing situation for Melvin Gordon. Of course, it'd be fantastic if Melvin Gordon was there, but I'm going to be honest with you. They're going to be just fine without him. And if when he does return, they're just going to pack more punch. He's going to be fresh. He's going to be, they're going to use him. Again, this offense is going to be fine. This backfield is going to be fine. The Chargers' running game was efficient and effective. They averaged 6 yards per carry. That's pretty dang good. Now, on the topic of the Colts. The Colts have nothing to be ashamed about. They played a good game. Jacoby Brissett, a lot of people are counting him out. A lot of people are going to be sleeping on him. But I believe this team can and will rally around him, all right? Jacoby Brissett threw for 2 touchdowns and 190 yards. Not the greatest, but again, this team, I believe, can and will rally with him. When it was time for Jacoby Brissett to step up and make that clutch play, he did. He had a 19-yard touchdown pass to T.Y. Hilton, and they made the 2-point conversion afterwards and made it into OT. I mean, they didn't get the ball in OT and the Chargers marched down the field, but still, you can't put that on Jacoby Brissett. Hey, he played a good game. I guess the message here is don't sleep on Jacoby Brissett. I believe this team is going to rally with him. All right, it's the next day after. All right, it's a new day. Hopefully my voice is sounding a bit better. Let's get into the lesson. All right, it's a day later, and hopefully my voice is sounding a little bit better. All right, let's get into the next game. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Cincinnati Bengals 21-20. Man, did anyone think that this game would actually be competitive? I totally counted out the Cincinnati Bengals on this one, but man, they surprised a whole lot of people, especially Andy Dalton, who had a monster first half. Again, Andy Dalton had a career-setting day here. He threw for over 418 yards. This is a career high, and he threw for 2 first-half touchdowns to John Ross. Again, what a surprise! It's either that Andy Dalton's, he's finally materializing and he's starting to gain some consistency, or there are a couple question marks on this in the Seattle secondary. Of course, with the departure of Earl Thomas, that leaves a pretty big hole in the Seattle secondary, and it was pretty evident during this game. Although my worries aren't too high for the Seattle defense. Again, their defensive line is pretty solid. Now with the addition of Jadeveon Clowney, they have him, Quentin Williams, Al Woods. They had a pretty good game. Not spectacular, but they put up some decent numbers. Believe it or not, prior to the season, I had the Seattle Seahawks actually winning the NFC West here. But despite Andy Dalton's great game, in the end, unfortunately that they didn't get the win. The Seahawks again just squeaked past the Bengals to win. And although the Cincinnati Bengals did take the loss, I believe there is one bright spot with this team, and that's John Ross. As we all know, John Ross was drafted a couple of years ago, famously for beating the 40-yard record. And a lot of people thought it was a reach by the Cincinnati Bengals to draft this kid, but he looked spectacular this game. He had 7 receptions for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hey, that's not bad. I do believe his production will slow down once AJ Green comes back on the field, but hey, for now, he looked pretty good this game, and I believe he'll be quite the weapon for this offense if they continue to roll. The Dallas Cowboys defeat the New York Giants 35-17. How about them Cowboys? And more specifically, how about Dak Prescott? Man, he's looking like he's gonna earn that big contract. I don't know about $40 million a year, but I believe this man needs to get paid, all right? With 405 yards and 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, this man played great. And of course, alongside him was Ezekiel Elliott. He didn't have the great. He had a good game with 13 carries and 53 yards. You know, they're holding him back a bit. Of course, he just signed his big contract prior to the season starting. A lot of people thought without Elliott, this team wouldn't make it to the playoffs. But let me tell you, this team's gonna be sneaky good. All right, I'll tell you that. Alongside Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, Dallas also had another star on their offense, and that was receiver Michael Gallup. I'm not gonna lie to you, I started Michael Gallup in a couple of my leagues. Oh, what a pleasant surprise! Or I saw it coming totally. I totally saw it coming. But with 7 receptions for 158 yards, man, he was looking impressive out there. Now, do I think he'll be consistent? I don't know about that. The truth of the matter is Dak Prescott has plenty of weapons to throw to. All right, he's got Ezekiel Elliott, Jason Witten, Randall Cobb, Amari Cooper. He's got a lot of options on offense. So, you know, I believe this Dallas team is going to be sneaky good. Now talking about the other team, the New York Giants. The first drive, I was like, oh man, these guys are serious business with Saquon's 59-yard rush. I was like, dang, for this guy's first touch of the season, pulling off that shenanigans, man, this might be a pretty tight game. But after that, they couldn't keep the steam rolling, unfortunately. Eli Manning did a serviceable job, but again, at this point, his Eli Manning. At this point, the Giants will move on from him soon enough. Also making his NFL debut was Daniel Jones. And although it wasn't much, it wasn't all that impressive. He went 3 of 4 for 17 yards, and he lost a fumble, but the call was reversed. But that was in the final 2 minutes of the game. Speaking for the other players on the Giants offense, you had Evan Ingram, who he put up a solid game. Again, this receiving core is running thin. It's running pretty thin, so he had himself a pretty big game. But other than that, Giants, it may look like a long season for you guys. I'm sorry. All right, the San Francisco 49ers defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-17. I'm going to be honest, this isn't a game I want to particularly talk about as well. San Francisco, Jimmy Garoppolo, he didn't look particularly sharp. He looked pretty sloppy. He turned the ball over twice. There are a ton of penalties in this game too, committed by the 49ers, which held back up plenty of scoring opportunities. Tampa Bay also, Jameis Winston, again, didn't look fantastic. He had 3 interceptions this game. Oh man, I'm just gonna take a pass on this one. I hope you guys don't mind if anyone's listening at this point. The Arizona Cardinals and Detroit Lions tie at 27. Alright, for most of this game, it looked like the Lions had this in the bag, but man, Kyler Murray, he could be something special here. Alright, Kyler Murray alongside the Arizona Cardinals scored 18 points in the fourth quarter, bringing the game to overtime, where, of course, they both kicked for a field goal and tied the game. Again, Kyler Murray looked super confident at quarterback. He and Larry Fitzgerald connected on so many occasions. I believe he is the future of this franchise. Good on the Cardinals for having the balls to move on from Josh Rosen only a year after. That's not something easy to call, but it will benefit them so much this season and for the future to come for the Arizona Cardinals. All right, speaking for the Detroit Lions, all was looking pretty good until the fourth quarter. When the fourth quarter came around, they just couldn't put together drives to stop Arizona's momentum. Again, Matthew Stafford, I don't know, I feel like he's not the future of the Lions anymore. They've got nothing with him, and that just may be the incompetence of the organization itself, but I'm not sure. Hey, There are some pretty bright spots though. Matthew Stafford and TJ Hawkinson looked pretty dang good together. Matthew Stafford connected with TJ Hawkinson a total of 6 times for 131 yards and 1 touchdown. Hey, that's all right, but I don't know. They drafted this guy to be a Gronk clone. He may live up to it. I doubt it. Who knows? But yeah, what is there to take away from this game if you're the Detroit Lions? I believe, again, I'll reiterate, I don't believe that Matthew Stafford is the future of this organization. I don't believe that Matt Patricia is the future coach of this organization. I truly believe that this could be his last season in Detroit. That they'll let him go after this. Again, yeah, we have a long history of offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators leaving New England to take on coaching positions, and for the most part, not a lot of it has turned out well for the teams involved. But yeah, that's all I got to say about this game. Alright, this game's going to be a little difficult for me to talk about, but let's get into it. The New England Patriots defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers 33-3. If you don't know, I am a die-hard Steelers fan, and this game was so painful, yet so entertaining to watch. Let's start off with New England's side of the ball. Tom Brady is entering his 20th season. Just to give you some perspective, he's been playing in the league longer than I have been on this earth walking. That's insane. New England has looked as good as they ever have looked ever in this game. All right. Philip Dorsett, Julian Edelman, Josh Gordon, Jacoby Myers, and the injured N'Keal Harry all make up this New England receiving core. That is a fantastic core. All right. I'm not gonna talk about Antonio Brown right now. As we all have heard, he's being accused of some serious stuff right now, and for me personally, I believe he's not gonna play for the New England Patriots at all this season. That he'll be put on the commissioner's exempt list, and that'll be the end of the story. But with that said, the New England Patriots don't need Antonio Brown. This receiving core is, man, they looked fantastic. All right. I don't believe the Pittsburgh Steelers are as bad as people make them out to be. Yes, we definitely struggled in this game, but we're not as bad as people make us out to be. New England is just this good. Belichick just has the Steelers' number and will always have our number. Just as impressive as their offense was, their defense was super impressive as well. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger is always going to put up a fight. The Pittsburgh Steelers are always going to be able to put up a fight, but they just completely shut it down. They totally singled out Juju Smith-Schuster, and it was obvious that the other Pittsburgh receivers just weren't ready to step up. You know, Dante Moncrief, man, that man had like 3-4 drops during the game. Yikes. Yeah, so now in terms of the Pittsburgh Steelers, there's only one way to go up from here, and it's going to be up, all right? I'm calling it now. I think most people would agree that Ben Roethlisberger will bounce back from this game. Again, I'll reiterate, a lot of people think the Pittsburgh Steelers are worse than they actually are, all right? Big Ben, he didn't have a tremendous game. Again, this wide receiving core, just, it's going to be hard with losing Antonio Brown, having Juju Smith-Schuster on those double coverages. I believe it's going to take time. Do the Steelers bounce back? Of course, we're going to bounce back, but again, again, this is a hard game for me to talk about here, but yeah. Let's just say this, I'm confident there's not going to be a Super Bowl for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. All right, let's talk about our next game here. The New Orleans Saints beat the Houston Texans 30-28. My, did we have quite the conclusion to a fantastic game played by both teams. I mean, awesome job, Deshaun Watson and Drew Brees. again, tremendous job, but man, that final minute of this game was superb NFL football. All right, for those of you who didn't watch the game, let me just recap the final minute for you. With 50 seconds left in the fourth quarter, it was up to Will Lutz to secure the lead for New Orleans. Will Lutz kicked a 47-yard field goal to secure that lead, but this also left Deshaun Watson with 50 seconds left in the fourth quarter to march down the field and score some points. And the question is, did he come up clutch? You're darn right he did. On the first play of their drive, Deshaun Watson threw a bomb to DeAndre Hopkins for 38 yards. And after that, business kept rolling. Deshaun Watson threw a 37-yard touchdown pass to Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills, of course, recently brought over in a trade for left tackle Laramie Tunsil. But this also gave the Saints 37 seconds left in the fourth quarter to do something as well. With 37 seconds left, Drew Brees proceeded to march down the field to put Will Lutz in place to kick the game-winning field goal from 58 yards, the longest in his career. I gotta give it out to both teams. They played their hardest game. Deshaun Watson has nothing to feel bad about. To be honest, that's all on the defense for not being able to stop Drew Brees and company from marching down the field. I believe that both teams here have Super Bowl opportunities in their future, and most importantly for the Saints, after coming off back-to-back seasons with two disappointing playoff losses, this might be their final year with Drew Brees being at such a high level. All right, and the final game we'll be talking about here is the Oakland Raiders defeating the Denver Broncos 47-16. Man, after all the drama circulating the Raiders organization this offseason and preseason, boy, I'm sure it feels good getting that win. Man, seemingly during this game, it looks like the Raiders were just taking out all their frustration surrounding Antonio Brown's drama. In Derek Carr's debut, he was looking pretty serviceable and, most importantly, consistent. He went 22 of 26 for 259 yards and 1 touchdown. That's pretty good, in which is a kind of a make it or break it season for him. Also on the offensive side of the ball, the first round pick Josh Jacobs had a pretty darn good game. He had 23 carries for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. Fantasy-wise, that's beautiful. Also having a big game is Tyrell Williams. He had about 105 yards for 1 touchdown. Hey, that's pretty good. Now speaking on Denver's side of the ball, Joe Flacco, he looked alright. Again, it's so weird seeing Joe Flacco in a Denver uniform. I have, my whole life, all I've known is Joe Flacco is the enemy in Baltimore. But now, he's in Denver and he's looking alright. I don't know how long he'll be there for, how long he'll last. We'll just have to see. With Joe Flacco looking mediocre, again, Denver just hasn't been able to catch a break with drafting their quarterbacks, with finding their next man. I do believe that Joe Flacco is like a nice rental car. He'll get you to and from where you need to go, but he's not their future. They need to invest in someone, or else John Elway is gonna lose his job as the GM of the Denver Broncos. And with Von Miller not getting any younger, I believe we could start to see this defense slow down. Although there is hope, they did bring Bears defensive coordinator Nick Fangio in the offseason, so you have that. They also brought in the defensive line coach from Pittsburgh, Mike Munchak. He's a great addition, but again, I'm not sure where this Denver offense is heading to. I mean, you do have Philip Lindsay, but him and Royce Freeman were just sharing the carries, and I'm not sure where this Broncos team is heading, to be honest. All I gotta say is, I salute the Oakland Raiders after going through that much BS with Antonio Brown, going out Monday Night Football in primetime, letting everyone know that, hey, we're still here without Antonio Brown. We will be fine with Antonio Brown, all right? I believe Antonio Brown is just fuel for the fire at the Raiders at this point, all right? And that's about it. All right. Yeah, those are all the games from week one. It was a fantastic week. A lot of crazy games. A lot of sad things that happened. That Steelers loss was pretty disappointing. But yeah. All right. I want to thank you again for tuning into Meow Meow Sports. Again, if you made it this far, I salute you. I promise that things are only gonna get better here. Again, I'm not the greatest at articulating what I have in my mind and putting it out in the world, but hey, stick around and hopefully you'll see the improvement. And if not, come back when I'm better. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a blessed week. God loves you. Jesus loves you. God bless. Amen.